Hola, hola mis amores y bienvenidos de nuevo a mi canal aquí en Everyday Español. Estoy súper emocionada que estés conmigo hoy porque vamos a hablar de un tema súper importante. Cuando usamos hace y cuando usamos es. These two words are super common in Spanish, especially when describing different situations, especially with adjectives and verbs. So let's dive into today's lesson to see how we use hace and es. Before we get into today's lesson, do not forget to download the AirLearn app onto your phone so that you never miss a lesson right at your fingertips. First, let's talk about how we use hace. Hace is a super important verb that you use to describe the weather. When you want to talk about how hot, cold, or what the weather is doing, hace is your go-to verb that you must use when describing the weather. But the important thing to remember with hace is that it's always used with specific adjectives or nouns. So let's look at a couple examples using hace. Hace calor, it's hot. Hace frío, it's cold. Hace viento, it's windy. Hace sol, it's sunny. Y hace buen tiempo, y hace mal tiempo. It's good weather and it's bad weather. Notice how in all of these examples, it's describing the condition of the weather. The hot, cold, or how or what the weather is doing. In this case, you're talking about what weather is doing or what the weather does rather than what the weather is. So hace works as a verb here to describe the condition of the weather. What I really like, and I'm going to re-emphasize what I just said, is hace is used to describe weather, to describe what the weather is doing or what it does, not what it is. Take note on that. Now let's talk about es, on the other hand. We use es to describe what something is. In this case, it's often used with adjectives to describe a situation or a thing, not an action or condition like with hace. Let me show you. Es frío. It's cold. Describing something that you would typically expect to be cold, like a slushy or an icy drink. You're not ever expecting it to be anything else other than cold, so I'm describing what it is. Es frío. Think of it this way. If somebody's never heard of a slushy or an icy, and they say, wait, what is that? What's that like? You might be like, es una bebida y es fría. It's a drink and it's cold. You're describing what it is or what it is. Es caliente, it's hot, describing something you would typically expect to be hot, like soup. Most of the time, we're not expecting soup to come out to us cold, so you would say es caliente. Es un día soleado. It's a sunny day. Here, I'm not describing what the weather is doing, I'm just describing how it is. Next one, es temprano. It's early. Es tarde. It's late. In all of the cases that I just outlined above, you're describing what something is, not what something is doing, like with hace. For example, es un día soleado describes how the day is, not what the weather is doing on that day. Whereas hace sol is telling us what the weather is doing that day. The day is sunny. It's a sunny day. It's describing the condition of the weather. Now let's look at a couple of common mistakes that you need to avoid when trying to decide if you use hace or es. A lot of times learners confuse hace and es and take things they learn from es and mix it with hace and what they learned with hace and mix it with es. So I'm going to teach you a couple things that you need to avoid when trying to use hace and es. Just remember, if you're describing weather conditions, what the weather does, you got to use hace. If you're describing what something is, you use es. Es calor. Es calor, we cannot use that. Calor is a condition, so we need hace to make the sentence work. So instead, you would say hace calor. In hace un día soleado, I think that they're trying to convey what the day is like. So in this case, instead of hace un día soleado, you would say es un día soleado, because you're describing what the day is. Let's go over a few more examples so you guys can really get the hang of it and master it. Hace calor en el verano. It's hot in the summers. It's typically hot in the summer. I'm describing the condition of this time of year and what the weather is doing, so I'm using hace. Es un verano muy caluroso. It's a hot summer. In this one, I am describing what it is like this summer. Another one, hace mucho viento hoy. It's very windy today. Es un día ventoso. It's a windy day. As you can see through these examples, hace and es help us describe different aspects of the same idea. One expresses the condition, hace, where the other one is describing what it is. Now it's your turn to practice at home. I'm going to give you a couple of practice sentences, and your guys' job is to fill in the blank with either hace or es. Número uno. Blank, calor hoy. Calor hoy. Pause the video. Write your answer down. Don't cheat. In this case, you would say hace calor hoy. Ejemplo número dos. Blank, muy temprano. Muy temprano. In this case, the answer is es. Es muy temprano. It's very early, describing what it is. Número tres, blank, frío en las mañanas. Blank, frío en las mañanas. The correct answer here, hace. Y finalmente, ejemplo número dos, blank, un día soleado. Blank, un día soleado. The correct answer here is es. Y ese es todo para hoy, mis amores. Muchas gracias por venir a mi canal aquí en Everyday Español. Y muchas gracias por venir para unir nuestra comunidad. Now you guys successfully have figured out when to use hace and es. It's okay if you still have some questions, but just remember, hace describing what weather is doing, what the weather's doing, the condition of the weather. Es describing what it is like. If you guys have any further questions or want me to make another follow-up video on this, let me know your questions in the comments and I would be happy to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe, share this video, tag your friends, and so you never miss a lesson conmigo, Profe Madison. I will see you guys next time aquí en mi canal en Everyday Español. Adiós.